confirm that there's nothing in the charter regarding this issue.
Now, did you want to invite, he's not a governmental official, and I think that...
He's an elected county legislator for part of the district.
Right, but he's not writing in that capacity. He's
No.
writing in his capacity as Democratic Committee Chair. And I don't think that Mr. Blanchard was doing anything other than forwarding it. So did you want to extend an invitation to Mr. Jenkins, or do you want to wait my report and then decide?
I say the latter.
I'm of the opinion we need to find out if there's anything in the charter and why we would deal with this. If we find something there, then I would invite him to give us.
Can we ask Steve to contact Mr. Jenkins to make sure that we're not missing something that he's trying to get across by, he might be writing this with some other intention in mind that we are not catching.
I have no issue.
I mean, could you reach out to him? Because I don't want to, I don't want to technically say that we're going to just say no or yes without maybe just verifying with him that we know what his intent is before we even do the research.
I can give him.
Because sometimes people write things and they think it's very clear. We might be on track A and they might be on track B. So he has been always very, he's addressed the commission. He's always been very nice.
And while we're on that.
Full disclosure, he's a personal friend and lives on my block.
Yes.
So
but he addressed it when a number of years ago, he would come on a regular basis and he was always very...
It was articulate.
Oh, he's great. And I just would like to make sure that we understand what it is he's trying to get across even before we do the research.
Yeah, and while you bring that up, I had that question regarding the second report.
that's the one, yeah.
Because I just did not understand.
Can you reread that to me?
Sure. We respectfully request a modification, the term, it's a little off in English, but anyway, a modification to the term of the Yonkers City Clerk to a term of up to 2 years designated at the first council meeting in each even-numbered year.
See, you can't do that. I mean, what you can't do... Right, you can't have a term of up to 2 years. You either have a term of 2 years...
Right, I get his language is on it.
Right.
There was an issue with the city clerk and what the term was, and it was working, and there was some political stuff going on. And so that's what this is.
This didn't have to fall out of the sky.
Right. No, sure not.
Absolutely. It was both a position, and then quite frankly, there were personalities involved.
Okay.
What is the current term of the clerk?
5 years.
And so it was ending different than the city council, and
which was the purpose of the 5-year term, to make it non-political, so that the person would stay in office while a new council took over.
Just by way of background, there's a couple of interesting things about the position of the city clerk per se. It's the one, by my word now, administrative type position that is directly under the city council, the governmental organization. All of the other administrative officers of the city are basically within the office of the mayor in some way, shape, or form within the city administration. And some of you are senior enough in terms of the Charter Commission to remember that when there was litigation involving this Charter Commission, the litigation was brought against or involved Joe Dearborn. Right? Because as the city clerk, she had been directed by the city council not to forward the Charter Commission's amendments to the county clerk so that they could be put on the ballot. And the commission had to sue in order to force that to happen. So the city clerk is in a somewhat different position structurally in the city government, a little bit different than most of the other administrative officials. And it's in that context that you have to then look at the 5 years, because it's not just 5 years, but it's who is doing the appointing. So this would make, in essence, unless there's something that I'm missing, would make the city clerk a purely political appointee in the sense that it would basically be servant pleasure, especially if you had a term of up to 2 years that effectively says, well, or as I read it, maybe Ken has a different intent, that it would be tantamount to serving at the pleasure of the city council. So that needs to be clarified, because that may in fact not be his intended, as you said. He may have just thrown this down on paper without necessarily having it accurately reflect exactly what we're getting. So I can ask you about that as well, if that's your pleasure. Okay?
And you're also going to review or research it too?
I'll look at the provisions in the code regarding the city clerk, but they're not that
No,
many.
I'm sorry, I'm going back to the first topic.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll look at the first topic about, what I'll do is I will just simply go online. I will put in, excuse me, majority and minority into the word search that General Code has for the Yonkers Charter and Code.
Okay.
And I'll come up with everywhere, and not only the charter, but in the code for that matter, where there is majority and minority, in order to even not just have it linked to leader. I'll see whatever it is that's out there to be sure. I may hit a bunch of majority votes, but I'll weed those out.
So just to be clear, that's a very surface look at this.
Yes.
Very surface. What we had talked about is not doing a
No,
research on it.
that's right. I'm not going to do any
We're not doing
detail.
research.
It's just
The big thing was to ask Ken, what did you mean tonight?
Yeah.
What did you mean
Right.
before we actually...
yeah. All I'm going to do
You
is
were going to research and see what's in the charter.
exactly. That's right. And I just don't want to miss it, and so I'll do the word search to make sure that I catch them all, because who knows where they may be? They could be in odd places.
So the motion is to contact Ken about the two issues, to get clarification on his issues, to research the first one with respect to what's currently in the charter, and the second one what's currently in the charter as well. But we're pretty clear on that, but let's get confirmed what's in the charter as well.
Are you having trouble with the word caucus on that also, as opposed to the 7 elected officials?
Well, normally, well, am I having trouble? No, I understand the logic of it, which is that the political majority selects its majority leader from its members, which are normally what we would think of as a caucus, and same with the minority. The thing that I've always found to be humorous about this, and I say it with my tongue truly in my cheek, is that it always assumed that there would only be two parties, of which there would be a majority and minority. And what happens if, God forbid, there's an independent, or there are three parties that are on it? Does that mean that we now have a majority and two minorities? And what happens if you're a minority of one? I mean, some of these were questions I found interesting, but I'll can word search for caucus as well, if Martin, see if that's in there. I don't think that it is, but I'll double check. It didn't trouble me because I'm not sure that, well, let's put it this way, the only other way of doing it would be for the city council itself as a whole to designate who is the majority and who is the minority leaders, assuming there are just two parties. And then that question then boils down to, well, who votes? If the entire council votes, the argument would be, well, why should members of one party be voting for who the other party's members or representatives should be? What's also interesting about this is, it in some ways indirectly raises the question of whether Yonkers elections should be partisan or non-partisan. And that's a separate question. Many municipalities around the state have a prohibition against partisan elections. They should literally be non-partisan. So that's a different question. There would be no majority or minority because there would be no party affiliations, at least as a formal way. But that's a different issue.
Who moves the motion? Eileen, second. Bob, all in favor? Any opposed? The second memo letter from Mark Blanchard came regarding what appears to be mostly cleanup language. And so he submitted 7 items, which I will circulate to each one of you, but then he highlighted 2 of them. The first being, again, it seems mostly language, but it's the issue of a chief financial officer versus controller versus financial commissioner. And so he's looking to get